Oh, good morning. We were 7 days out. I slept shitty last night. Maybe that's because my face looks like death. Looks like a 90-year-old man. I knew like just with sleep, like I was gonna have a pretty good drop today. So came down from like I was 231.6 down to 229.8, which is super low for me. Coming off a low day, and how sleep was, I figured that might be the norm. So anyway, gonna take you through my normal kind of like 7 day out process I do in the morning, and also we're gonna go do a push day here in a little bit. So get up, weigh myself, come outside. I'm just in my posing gear just because I literally like just kind of live in the woods, so there's like nothing else around me, and I like to come and set up my posing setup right here. And that's where I do my picks in the morning. I start doing these in two spots, so I have my natural lighting spot, given that it's not raining, because when you're really lean, it's hard to start seeing the really fine details. So coming out here, it just, I can see everything. Makes it really clear, so I can have those comparisons, and I have my standardized picks that I'm always taking in the house. So I'm gonna switch my lens to this one, do my picks, and then go inside and show you where I do my other picks. All right, made it back inside from being eaten by mosquitoes. It's been super humid every morning, which is very frustrating because it fogs up my camera lens. I'm out there like having to warm up the lens, then put it on and go pose real quick. But do those outside, come inside to my closet and do my photos here, which is, it's just, I do them here because it's like standardized lighting. I do have some setup in my posing room that I'm working on to like get better, just more accurate lighting like it would be like outside, but it's still working on that. So anyway, this is my, I should say, Renee's closet. It's where I have it set up because right now there's, if you see above, it's like daylight bulbs and there's no windows. There's a mirror in the back of the closet so you can watch yourself do your poses. And then I have my tripod set up, and behind me it's just my pitch black room, so works out well for posing. But anyway, I have my photos. I'm gonna pull them onto my phone or my computer and finish my few other little morning things. We'll sit down, look at these photos, and then decide on the plan for the day. Okay, the morning routine is done. Posing. A few things I had to knock out in the kitchen. For one, I'm like loaded down with my drinks I take to my office. So one is, I'll fill it up with 25 ounces of water, and it's Animal Flex, so they're like joint supplement. I drink that in the morning. Then I also have about a 20-ounce coffee, which is like 2 shots of espresso. Measure all the fluids out, so I have like a big jug in the fridge and pour that. If there's anything like I get out of the sink, like I'll measure it back with my cup and like pour it back out, so I know I'm getting the right fluid amount. So hitting 2 gallons per day with that, and then also just put some rice together, so as I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need some rice today. So all right, so I thought I would share how I actually do my coaching and give you some insight into my kind of thought process through all this, so I don't make my decisions just right after filming with my camera. I let them kind of process and then just kind of go logically through this. And I have to be, if I can explain it to someone, my decisions, then I think that can come across as logical, and also make the arguments against my decisions is kind of what I go back and forth between to come to my conclusions. For one, if you don't, I'm walking on a walking pattern on my desk, which has been a game changer for my productivity on prep. So I'll come in here and usually work for like an hour and a half before I go pose, and then eat meal 1. But I'll get in like about 4,000 steps easy while I'm working. So, but anyway, I uploaded my check-in, and with my current picks here. So that's what the first thing I have to look at. And I think I mentioned earlier I was 231 point something. That was actually 2 days ago. It was 230.6. Yesterday I ran my off day diet, so I can have my comparisons here. And the first thing that I would look at, if it was a client, would just be looking at the visuals and comparing them across. And kind of what I'm looking for within this is making sure areas of fullness and areas of condition. Now, off the front shots, a lot of these are going to be pretty ready. One thing that I noticed right away is the sharpness in my quads is much improved, and that's kind of the thing that I will see as peak week progresses and I get farther away from that leg session that I just had, and also as I kind of taper down posing, you'll see that localized inflammation starting to drop. So you can see throughout my quads, the lines are much sharper, like in my sartorius, right? You see it in my rec fin compared to the yesterday. So that kind of makes sense of the weight drop and you look sharper. Okay, maybe dropped off some just fatigue there. I can look at a rear relaxed, pretty similar across that shot. I just kind of go again, walking through my different shots. I always looking at the most muscular. I think that shows a lot of detail off the front. Could be a posing thing, but I feel like my waist was much more controllable today. Maybe not quite as full up top in this shot compared to yesterday. Which the fullness thing is no big deal. We can fix flat. Someone said you can fix flat, but you can't fix fat. Yeah, that is so true. We see a little bit more lines coming in, these erector, thoracolumbar area. Could be opposing things, so you just kind of have to weigh all that in. Yeah, just really happy with all the poses this morning. They look solid. Conditions on point. A few things else that I'll show you was some. What we can look at. This is the posing video from this morning. I can hear the birds chirping, the mosquitoes on my face. So you can see in the video, wow, how much more detailed and clear, crisper it is. This is just, you can see the skin texture here that you can't in the other pictures, how it looks just grainy, right? So condition is 100% there. And looks actually the sharpest I think I have been. Just really happy with all these poses, how they have come together and how I'm hitting them this year. Very sharp. So one thing that I did yesterday was I posted this on my story. Hopefully this isn't too messy on the screen for y'all to see, but I took some pics throughout the day, and that's what I start to do on peak week, so I can have data and look at basically peak week every day. For me is I'm trying to run into peak week. For one, water's already figured out, right? So I've already adjusted PDs to where I have a baseline that's already configured to where I'm not holding water retention around that. So basically it's now me just figuring out how much food and fluid do I need to have a balance of full and conditioned, because it's a spectrum you're going to work on here. If you get a little bit more condition, you eventually start dipping in the flat side. As you get fuller, you get harder, but then you start dipping into the little bit more spilled, softer side. So what I do is take some pics throughout the day with different amounts of food and fluid in to see kind of what that best look is. Then I just know what to repeat on show day. It's as simple as that for peak week. It's how you don't miss the mark. So these were about 3.4 pounds up, right? After one meal, 1 gallon of water, over 5 hours. And we'd see man, my upper body is much bigger. Maybe sacrifice a little detail in the abs. The back shot looks bigger, but I sacrificed some glute line. So kind of the idea here is that potentially maybe between that 232 to 233 mark would be a better weight for me. So what I could do here, and what I'm kind of tentatively planned for, is like, well, to make that happen, I could do the same food, but I just wouldn't do as much water. And that would control my body weight, how much it comes up. So that's how I'm starting kind of this peak week planning process. Today, diet-wise, let's get to it. I don't want to drag this out for too long here, is coming down with that body weight low, following my non-training day diet yesterday. It's kind of been the norm. So I know, for one, this diet will pull me back down if I go a little too far carbing up during the week or anything. But the high day that I do is 500 grams of carbs. This will pull me up about 1.5 pounds, which will be about perfect for where I want to be. So I'm going to run this high carb day for today, put that in place, and then we'll go train push. All right, we are at Anytime Fitness Day for this session, and this was a more of my chest focus push session. Nothing's changing volume here wise today. Like, I feel great. I feel fresh. So this session's just been run the same. This is a bit more chest focused. I still always start with my side lateral. It's just delts is always something that I need more of. However, on this session, I do a chest fly into a flat press. On my more delt focused session, I just go straight to an incline press. So that's kind of how I differentiate my delt versus my chest focused day. No prehab work into this session. Connected tissue wise, I feel great. So I think if you have the right exercises programmed, you don't need some extensive activation warm up to do. Your exercise selection will just cater into that. So starting this session off with just a side lateral, doing a cable lateral, and I use these cables and scoot them all the way up to near my elbow, just so I can unload my forearm, because I did run into some forearm issues earlier on, but now I just like doing them, so I've left them in place. I do have these going behind my back and out to the front about 15 degrees, so I stay in the scapular plane, and it just gives me really good bracing and stability. Usually hit about 90 degrees with the arm and the cable, about 30 degrees up from the bottom. So get some good loading, kind of about mid-range with this one. I just do 4 sets here, alternating arms, and stay in this 10 to 15 rep range. All right, wrapped up my lateral raises, and I do them like this as well because the lateral machine here, I just can't load it heavy enough. So if you have a lateral machine, you very well could mimic this, and essentially it'd be a more brace pattern as well if you had that chest support. By the way, moving on to pec deck fly. So I also do these with putting my elbows into the arm support, the handles, just to alleviate any loading on the bicep and forearm. It's one less thing to think about, and it resolved my tendonitis I had going on, but now I just kind of like it, so I keep doing them. Anyway, doing 3 sets here in the 10 to 15 rep range before moving on to my pressing. And I really focus here on wrapping the arms around the rib cage and driving the bicep to bicep. So taking the hands out of it, a lot of people just start thinking about moving the hands together, then they end up bending the arm more to do so. Well, for one, taking the hands out of it kind of eliminates that, but also with this cueing, the chest wraps the humerus around the rib cage. So to get the full range of motion out of the pec, that's part of the cueing that you want. And also just be very mindful to keep a good brace and not allow thoracic extension flexion to occur to a great degree. We really want to keep that humerus angle and torso angle to where we're getting the most pec in it. A lot of people start getting heavier loads and they start changing that torso angle. Then you might feel the tension get off the pec a bit, maybe more on the delt. So it's something to keep in mind when you're doing these. Okay, moving on to Smith machine flat press. I don't have a great flat press option in this gym. Basically, it's just the Smith machine. There's a pre-core press, but I can max it out, and also the range of motion isn't great on it. So, but I really like the Smith machine anyway. Can load more of the lengthened position here. I do 2 sets, a top set, a back off set, and just stay within the 8 to 12 rep range. My strength in this prep has not dropped down, which this is largely, and take this valuable point away, is that fatigue management is key, and to not accumulate a lot of fatigue is to not have to run an aggressive deficit because you have 50 pounds of body weight to pull off. So you just don't get fat in the off season, and you can run a small deficit, which means less fatigue accumulation, which means less detriment in training performance. So if you manage your fatigue, you will uphold your tissue in the gym far more effectively. So what would be more ideal is, like, if you had that much body fat for some reason, run a pre-prep first, pull it off, go to maintenance, and then go into a prep from there. All right, finish the flat press. One thing I look on setup on this is at the very bottom, making sure that wrist is directly above the elbow, so there's no translation inward of the wrist, which would make it a little bit more tricep biased. Also, going wrist outside the elbow would shorten your range of motion. So that's kind of the setup, just in a nutshell, of what I look for in that. Moving on to an incline press now. I like this one. It's a neutral grip. Ideally, I'd want something kind of in the middle of neutral and pronated, but this is, I kind of use a thumbless and set that up a little bit. But if we look at these upper pec fibers, how they run this diagonal, so we're looking for a humerus path that kind of aligns with that, so moves across the body, and this press really works well for it. So I've become a fan of more of a neutral grip press for my incline work. Yeah, easier on the shoulders, larger range of motion out of the bottom. 2 sets scheduled on this one today, about the same rep range, kind of this 8 to 12, and knock it out. Right, wrapped up the compound pressing, so moving on to tricep isolation work. I do this pre-core tricep extension. It's not ideal. The elbow pivot point is a little bit higher from where you'd want to be, so the arm really has to be, the upper arm has to be off the pad to line up with that pivot point well, and that's where it feels good. Of course, you know, it's bilateral. You can stabilize the humerus pretty good, so but it works well. Like, you get, you know, that upper arm. I do a little bit of shoulder flexion, so it's a little bit more stretch on the tricep. I have problems if I go directly overhead with some of the tricep work, and elbow issues over long-term training. So this is kind of a happy medium for me with an overhead versus, you know, something like a push down on my side. Time efficient because it's bilateral. So yeah, this one's been working well. I'll do 4 sets here and stay kind of still in this 8 to 12 rep range. So wrap up tricep work, moving on to calves. So at any time, we just have a seated calf raise, and that's it. So I do a toe press calf raise, and I do them single leg because I don't have to load up the entire machine and probably do the whole stack. So this works well for calf work in prep. I do cut out a seated calf raise because you're more of your straight leg calf raise. It's going to work your soleus and your gastroc, and I just need maintenance mode on calves. So calves are decent. So just do right now 6 sets total across the week. Off-season setting, that'll kind of go up to 10 sets, but for right now they're just down to 6 sets. And that maintains them, like strength maintains on these. So just alternate legs and staying in 8 to 12 rep range. It's been the rep range of the day, hasn't it? So we don't have an awesome ab machine choice in here, but there is a pre-core ab crunch that can be okay. If you set the seat low in it and you scoot your hips out, hook your feet under the bar, and just really focus on using lumbar flexion extension, you can really put a ton of tension through your rectus abdominis. So I do this one, and do 4 sets here, and that wraps up this push day. Not a lot to it. Relatively straightforward session. Just keep on cranking, man. 7 days. I'm excited. I'm really pumped about this show. Feel good about it. Feel great about where I'm in. and understand my different carb amounts and what they do for pulling me down and bringing me up. So I have a pretty decent game plan of what I'll be doing 3 days up to the show for carb up and hardening back up if I push the carbs over too much or underdo them or anything like that. Well, I'll keep everyone updated. Talk to you next time.